How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. Today we are going to be talking about how you can start playing Flesh and Blood early in 2021 prior to the release of Monarch, because right now it's actually really hard to get good, cost-effective starter decks because the Welcome to Wraith starter decks are out of print and they are very hard to find. So I'm going to give you some suggestions in today's video on where you can find some good, cost-effective starter decks so you can start playing Flesh and Blood before Monarch comes out. And once Monarch comes out, I would highly recommend picking up the Monarch Blitz decks. They're only about 12 bucks MSRP, so if you can find those, maybe pre-order them, pick those up. Check out online stores like Channel Fireball. I might have an affiliate link with them in the description down below. I also want to mention that today's video is brought to you by FAB the premier Flesh and Blood deck building and database website. If you want to take a good look at all of the, Flesh and Blood cards available in a really convenient way, check out FAB or also, for all of your deck building needs. I use them personally, so I cannot recommend them enough. All right, so let's start talking about where you can find some starter decks, because basically, the Welcome to Wraith starter decks are out of print. The IRA welcome decks are also very hard to find. There should be new ones coming out this year, but they're not quite out yet, so it's all still very hard to find. And I know it's really frustrating for a lot of new people who want to get into Flesh and Blood, this excellent game, but they're having a really hard time with it because unlimited boxes are hard to find, starter decks are hard to find, and the things that you can find are really expensive. Luckily, a couple card stores that I personally know of are actually making like pre-constructed decks at a very low affordable cost. And these decks are actually pretty good. Some of the decks are actually the same exact decks for the most part as the official like Legend Story Studios Flesh and Blood starter decks. And there are two stores in particular that I want to talk about today. The first one is FAB Foundry, and if you have watched my channel for any amount of time, you've probably heard about me talking about FAB Foundry before. I have an affiliate link with them in the description down below. They're an excellent store local to me. I personally know the owner of the store. He's a really nice dude. We play Flesh and Blood every now and then. But more importantly, he really cares about the Flesh and Blood community, growing this awesome game, and he offers Flesh and Blood starter decks on his website for around like 15 bucks. I think it's around that price. Don't quote me. I think it's around $15, but they're excellent. These starter decks are basically the exact same starter decks that are the Legend Story Studios official Flesh and Blood starter decks, except he makes them, custom by hand, compiles the decks just so he can sell them to folks to start playing this excellent game. There's only a couple like minor small differences in the decks. Like I know he doesn't have like Springboard Somersault in the decks because that card's really hard to get. I should also note that he sells out very quickly. There's a huge demand for these. So check out the link in the description down below, FAB Foundry, for these starter decks. They're a fantastic way to start playing the game. The other one is a website called FABStarterDecks.com. The decks available on this website are a little bit different. First of all, they are all Blitz decks, which means they are, smaller decks, and you play with a hero that has a lower starting life total, which means that the games are much quicker. So it's kind of a good entry point for the Blitz format, whereas the FAB Foundry decks are the classic constructed decks. So the FAB Foundry decks actually have more cards, basically. And I actually pulled this up on my phone right here because I wanted to get the information right. So they have a couple different kind of decks you can get, right? So they have the basic Blitz decks, and these are only $10, and these are very basic rudimentary decks, just kind of like to learn how to play, kind of like the IRA welcome decks. They also have the starter Blitz decks. These are about $16 each. And I guess I should tell you what heroes, right? So for the basic Blitz decks, they have Dorinthia, Bravo, and Reinhardt. For the starter Blitz decks, they have Dash, Azalea, Kano, Katsu, and Viserai. And like I said, these are $16. And then they have the Crucible of War Blitz decks, which actually use Crucible of War cards. And they have Bravo, Dorinthia, Katsu, Reinhardt, Azalea, Dash, Kano, and Viserai. They're all $25. And they also have an IRA deck that is $35. Looking at this website now, there's only a couple that are sold out. So, I'm going to have a link in the description down below to this. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I just think it's a really good way for you to pick up some, Flesh and Blood starter decks if you wanted to play the game. Just keep in mind, for all of these decks, for both FAB Foundry and FABStarterDecks.com. There's no like super rare chase cards in any of these decks. These are just ways to start playing the game and just to have fun with Flesh and Blood and, you know, start to learn. And that's, you know, basically how I started too. Not with these decks, but with like the official, you know, Flesh and Blood hero decks. And like I said, the FAB Foundry decks are basically the exact same as those hero decks. So if you pick those up, you're going to be learning to play Flesh and Blood the same way I learned to play Flesh and Blood. I got my girlfriend to play with me. We played a bunch of games. The first game we ever played was a match between Katsu and Dorinthia. She played Dorinthia, I played Katsu, and she kicked my butt. So you actually have a couple more options. There are some other stores that do this. I'm not sure off the top of my head which ones do. You can always check out stores like Red Rat Games to see if they offer stuff like this. And you can also check out the Flesh and Blood Facebook fan page and the Flesh and Blood Discord. The community is actually fantastic, and they actually give away decks. I know like there's some folks who are just giving away decks for free. I know big content creator Noxious was making just tons and tons of decks and just giving them out. So if you just kind of search around, you might be able to get some for free. Or if you just wanted to pony up like 10 to 15 bucks, maybe 25 bucks in the case of some of those Crucible Award decks, and just get some decks and learn to play, man. And that's my goal here with this video, just to get some folks out there to give Flesh and Blood a shot. Just give it a shot. It's a fantastic game, especially if you can get a starter deck for like 10 bucks, maybe even for free. Who knows? Or you can, like I said at the beginning, just wait until Monarch comes out and pick up one of those decks for like $12, one of the official Monarch Blitz decks for 12 bucks. In any case, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. I really wanted to just give more information to new players and people interested in Flesh and Blood, a way to just get into this game right now, because it's kind of hard to get in right now. I feel once we hit Monarch and once the print runs start increasing and Carta Money gets all of their like, you know, new printing machines fired up and started running, we should have fewer problems with this. And, you know, hopefully, you know, later in the year I can just make another video and be like, hey, just buy the Blitz starter decks. They're super good. They're only 12 bucks. But for the time being, you have to do a little bit of digging, and those two websites, FAB Foundry and FABStarterDecks.com, are the two best ones that I can think of. If you have any other suggestions, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you've bought from any of these stores, also sound off in the comments down below. Let us know your experience with these stores and how the decks did, you know, which decks you like, which decks you don't like, and you know, all that kind of stuff. But regardless of what you do, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time for some more Flesh and Blood content. Have a good one all. I'll see you later.